Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to have representation as a photographer, a professional photographer. I've been shooting for like 15 years now. I finally have some form of representation, and it was not an easy process. So I'm here to share with you guys that journey, why it works for me, and if you are ready for that, I'll share some tips on maybe how you can look into getting representation for yourself. So stick around, let's chop it up. Let's talk about understanding representation in the first place, and if you're even in the place for it. Me specifically, I did feel like I was at a crossroads where I needed it, and it wasn't that I need like somebody to find opportunities for me, but when I do have opportunities that come across my desk and they are of a higher standard or a higher expectation of what I need to deliver, have somebody next to me that can help with producing the quality work that I'm trying to deliver. It really goes for like if I'm shooting a celebrity or if I'm shooting a high profile company, and these are just things that come from being able to be professional and understanding the difference between your commercial career and your day-by-day career, or the stuff that you do with people that is a little bit more personal. As a photographer, you're growing, right? Like it was a point in time where I didn't have any commercial client work, but it got to a point where I was going over the threshold of like, okay, I'm shooting a lot more commercial clientele. How can I make this look the best way that I want it to look, but also receive the proper logistics that I need to make that possible. Also just go about it in a way that is of structure and is of ease for all parties involved. We just want to create and make amazing images, and sometimes you need support to help you along the way for that, and that's when you know representation is for you. And so I do want to mention that before we dive deeper into the video. It ain't for everybody, but it is for some people, you know? And let's break this down. If you have representation, does that mean that person is your manager who's going to find you opportunities? No, not necessarily. And it really depends on the dynamic that you set up with that person per se. And I won't say I was lucky the first time around, because I did have a trial run with another agency previous to the one that I'm with, and I did not like that trial run. I'm going to close the deal. I am here to create, I'm here to collaborate, and I'm here to make sure that I'm like really advancing and expanding myself as a professional in this career path. So I'm gonna close the deal. But previously with the agency that I was testing with before, and I had never signed with them, and thank God I didn't, it wasn't going well, and I felt like I was bringing things to the table for them, but they weren't really like handling it with nurture and care that I would. And I want to put that out there, that you have to be specific about like who you're working with, and really vet the people, vet the agency, vet the manager or whoever is going to have the same value system as you. Because for me, values is important. I just think when it comes to vetting who you're going to choose, you really have to make sure that they align with you. And it might be a trial error thing, and it's nothing personal. Sometimes you don't work out with some people just because of the values clashing. So, and even if it looks great, it looks like they're getting their artist opportunities, are they going to get you those kind of opportunities? Does it really align with you? Trial run, test it before you sign any paperwork. I think representation is very good for an emerging photographer, especially if you've already had a few commercial gigs and you're kind of transitioning into the commercial world. I think you should get it as soon as you get those first couple of larger gigs, so that you understand the structure of payment, how it rolls out, how to negotiate with a client, hopping on creative calls, talking about the creative work, structuring the shoot day, understanding who's included, understanding your team, building that team. I think all of that as an emerging photographer is necessary, because it's no longer, you just book in a studio and the model just pulling up. It's so many other people involved. It's a corporate feel to it as well, even though you're not per se in corporate. You still have to negotiate and talk with people that are in that setting, and being able to respect like just the businesses and the companies, and understanding like the way that they move and just like structure, and having support with you, and instead of just being like a little, you know, single photographer not really there with support. I think having an agency, having a producer or somebody there to really help guide the ship as you guys are getting to the shoot day, and even after the shoot day, having that support of just like connection and communication is really helpful. Delivering, showing up, and making sure that all deadlines and efforts are reached. How can representation help with career growth? I really think it's helped with me. I've already knew how to do a shoot, even commercial shoots when I was like freelance or independent. I already have been booking commercial gigs, so I know the structure of how it's supposed to go. However, I would always feel a little in the wind as an independent artist, or not really able to connect with everyone in the company like I can now, and having an extra support or representation, understanding my stresses as a photographer, like, you know, just logistics as far as like what is the editing due date, you know, challenging certain things, is it possible, also like as far as usage fees and all those different things, like that is incorporated in your representation, and that person is there to help support you through this business transaction. It's not just, oh, I'm going to pay you to take these photos, and you have to get out of that mindset. It's more about, okay, we're coming together and we're going to create these images that will represent your company. How could we best go about that? What would be the best way to really make sure that this is going to be a project worth investing in, and how can we make it worth everyone's, you know, effort. Also think that having representation helps with securing gigs, because they can have more reach to different clientele, so that's another thing to consider. But you also can bring in people that approach you, because I know for a minute people were just approaching me commercially, and I wish I would have had it early on, but I just was doing what I had to do, because at the time nobody wanted to sign me. I was considered inexperienced, but I was still getting commercial jobs. It was a very strange position to be in, I'm not gonna lie. So we talked about exposure. This is gonna increase your exposure. It's gonna be people that your rep knows, or businesses that your rep knows that you can get in contact with through them. Also, it just is a more expansive experience as far as like, okay, if you get a job, you use your representation through that job, you're expanding the more you work with them, because it's showing, okay, these people working together, they're creating their goals, they're really like going after it and getting like good feedback from different companies. So I think it's not just you as a photographer anymore, it's more like you and your representation expanding and creating a world within each other. Some cons that may come into having representation: for some people, depending on how you sign, it could feel like a loss of autonomy if you sign with agencies or reps that feel like they have to be involved in every little project that you do. I'm really like one-on-one with my rep, and we have a really good relationship where I'm telling her like, okay, I'm doing this small job. She doesn't really try to eat off of like all the bread and butter, but as far as like when it comes to agencies that are trying to eat off of everything that you do, like even smaller maybe companies that you work with, they're trying to get money out of that, and so they become these like money hungry houses, just trying to like make up a dollar through you, instead of like actually connecting with your clients. Like I really have a good history with my clients. If I have somebody that I work with, I normally work with them for a long period of time. They always come back. I don't really have clients that are like, oh, I'll never work with her again. That just doesn't happen with me, because I just make sure that I'm like delivering the quality. So when you're merging with an agency, you want to make sure that that is going to be something that works for you, and that the agreement set up is something that's going to be fair and just is of value to both parties. So one thing that you could be considering to look into is that your agency that you do sign to has worked with emerging talent, and they are working with people that are in that transitioning period, and they're open to growing. Like, they are not looking for you to be coming in with like 15 clients and, you know, being like all over the place with this. It's like they know that you're in between the stage of like, okay, I am still doing smaller gigs, but I'm also bringing on commercial gigs here and there. So it's understanding that middle ground of where you are, and then being okay with that, then being there for support for that as well, and understanding that it's a process that is happening over time, and it's not something that is going to be fast, especially living in today's society. I feel like with like Gen Z, with like millennials, I'm a millennial, and a lot of people mistaken me for Gen Z, but I am a millennial, baby. 1991, I'm up there. But I just feel like that we have lost the art of like growing slowly and like really like molding a career, having goals for your career that actually have legacy in mind. And it's not like this rapido, you know, move, I gotta work with this, I gotta do that. And that's healthy to have at such a young age, but also it's like cool to kind of get into that zone of like, okay, I want to really like mold my career and like really take it in this direction. I want to be seen as a photographer for this, and you know, understanding the structure of that is building a home. It's not, you have to get the foundation first, and then you gotta get to the walls, and then you gotta get to the windows and the roof and all that. So understanding the process, make sure that your representation is understanding that it's longevity and it's not this like microwave experience. And so let's talk about ways to approach representation, because around the time that I found representation, when I found my current representation, it was after me aggressively hunting for representation. So I want to talk about that transitional period and how it might be different for everyone. I was so set on, I want to say this was around 2022, 2021, I had decided, okay, I did a lot of like commercial work in 2021. So in 2022, I was like, okay, I have to figure out why I'm not getting to that next step of where I want to be negotiating my contracts. I want to be like understanding, like, we need to make this more of a collaborative agreement than just like, okay, I'm gonna just show up and take photos. And 2022 was when I started like reaching out to different representation, or even them reaching out to me, and it was becoming like this thing of like, okay, this is the direction in which I want to take things. However, at that time, it still wasn't the time. It still wasn't the time for me to get signed. I was still in this like learning curve, and I was also in a point of like having to release certain things that I was doing in order to make space for things that I wanted to do. And that's also a hard like lesson as well. Sometimes like you have to release certain jobs that obviously are overworking you and are not in your value system, especially if you are trying to get to a different like a different part or elevation of your journey. Ways, stop the old ways and move into the newer ways and the newer structures. And that's like anything in life. Like you have to like cut bad habits in order to gain good ones. So I would say 2021, 2022 was all about that. And I was just like reaching out to these different like representation, and some of them were a good fit. Some of them felt like they would be a good fit, but then I was like doing way too much to prove myself to certain people. Whereas like if you just kind of show up, and fast forward to today, I think I signed last year actually, in June of last year, and I got my first project, I want to say in October of last year. So very, not like a fast pace, but also a healthy pace. I feel like even when I signed or like reached out to my current representation, I told her like, you know, I have went on a break even looking for it. I was like even rethinking, did I want this? Because I had been through such a journey previously, like thinking, okay, is this even meant for me? But she signed me right on the dot, and she wasn't really looking to sign anybody. And I think because of that, I felt a lot more secure and upfront on the call. I just told her like all of the things that I believed in, like my values, like the direction I want to take things, and just like my goals as a photographer, longevity and short term. And it just felt like it clicked. It felt like it aligned. And I think that's what the best like feeling is like really just making sure you're chatting with people. If I could redo it back to 2021, 2022, I would have done more one-on-one personal meetings with like the lead representation of whoever is at the company, and see if I really meshed with them, see if like where their values were, how they look at artists, how they consider them to be, you know, just those key things, like what kind of atmosphere are they working in, and does it align with me? You know, some people like very fast-paced, you know, let's sign the deal, let's get it done. Some people are more interested in, you know, let's build connections with clients. Let's make sure that we are doing something that is going to work over time, and it's not like a cash grab vibes. Which brings me into like just overall creative alignment. Like, do you really align creatively with this agency or rep or whoever it might be? Do they really enjoy your work creatively? Do they understand like you as an artist as well? I think being a Black creative specifically as well is like a little bit harder for us, because when is it not harder? But it is a little bit more of a different experience for us. The camera died. But I just want to end the video talking about how representation can impact your creative freedom, okay? We have to talk about that, because when it comes to bringing on commercial work and strictly doing commercial work, I think that's also not healthy. At least that's what I found it to be in 2021. I had a lot of like commercial work, and I just felt like it was so much of like, you know, this is our vision, just do it. We want it to look like this. But I think it's about a balance, which is why I really push, if you are going to be represented, know that that's more of your like corporate, commercial, very tidy, okay, this gets the bag, this is who takes you serious as a photographer, and you're able to like really go on those sets and work in spaces with people on the same creative level as you. And then it is also like you pouring into your own creativity. So for example, my Sankofa exhibition was me pouring into my own creativity. Whenever you're doing tests with models and stuff like that, that's going to be pouring into your own creativity, and it's finding the balance between both. I find that the creative work is what gets me the more commercial work, so the more of that I do, the more I find comes in creatively. So definitely consider dividing the space and understanding that it's not one way that work is going to come to you. You really have to pour into yourself to get what you want back, in a sense, when it comes to being a professional creative anything. Another thing that I really find very key and just great when it comes to having representation is having somebody to just talk to about like your expansion, and not only just expansion as far as like what kind of like clients you want, but also just like how you want to be seen as a photographer, how you want your website to look, things that you can also just like be working on quarter by quarter, and having somebody to shoot those ideas with. Like a lot of the time when I was an independent artist, I was talking to myself, I was shooting these ideas off the boardroom in my own space, which is great, but it's great to have that feedback, have that kind of like person that understands the industry and understands like how it grows and changes to be talking to, and just having like goals with, and understanding that it's tangible, understanding that you have somebody there that is also there to support you because they want to expand as well. Also, just having regular feedback and growth is great as well. I really think that having representation connects the dots with the client, so they're able to talk with the client in a way that is going to allow you to get feedback that you may have not gotten before. Like I know I used to do jobs before and I would just do the job and just like move on, but it doesn't necessarily give me the feedback that maybe the client really enjoyed who I was as a creative or how I capture certain things, but I never got that feedback. So having representation allows you to really get feedback from your different clients, even if it isn't great feedback. Sometimes it's good to just understand like who's saying what and how you can improve, because sometimes bad feedback is good because you're able to see where you can improve and where you can expand in a better way. And probably the most important thing about representation, and I was going to say this one for last, is understanding commission, understanding rates, understanding how to rate yourself, and them understanding and crunching the numbers in the proper way, in the professional way, and delivering that language to the client in the best way. I think that is the most beneficial part of having representation, because when it comes to money, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you're talking to your mom, if you're talking to your cousin, money is like uncomfortable for people. And I think having representation and someone there for a middle ground to kind of like create a structure where the client understands what they're paying for and you understand what you're receiving in your job as well. I think that is a healthy environment and in space for creatives and companies to collide and really work together in harmony. So yes, that is my like video or synopsis of having representation, and I can elaborate on this more. I can do more videos of this as I grow with this experience. I will showcase my agency in this video, and I'll also enclose a few outlets that have helped me kind of get to that point too. The Loop is also, it's not an agency, but they are a platform for emerging female photographers. So if you are looking for a community where you want to expand as well, I learned a lot from them. I got a lot of my very first commercial clients from them as well. So if you're looking to get an idea or step your foot into the commercial space, definitely look for platforms that are going to support that and help you venture into that with ease. Y'all know what to do. Master your gaze. You really are the captain of your ship out here. And I know, as crazy as the world gets, it's becoming more and more important to really tap into your gaze, mastering your life and what you really want out of it. So I'll be back, y'all. One video a week moving into 2025. That's the goal. So I'll see you guys in a week.